I think we have had one of the most attentive and most disciplined forum. I didn't see too many people outside wandering around. Everybody was inside. In fact, I was the only one who was outside. Please excuse me because I had to attend to interviews and those kind of things. Therefore, I could not listen to some of the presentations. But in the 2 days, we covered a lot of ground on the social, economic, and cultural violations by China in Tibet, in East Turkestan, in southern Mongolia, in Hong Kong. And I stand in solidarity with all our friends from these regions. All I can say is that, to repeat what I said at the inaugural session, that we remain committed in our nonviolent approach. And when we talk about nonviolent approach, then we talk about a negotiated solution. When we talk about a negotiated solution, then we talk about a mutually beneficial solution. That is a lasting one, that we don't have to revisit again and again. And that is our hope, and we remain sincerely committed to reach out to the Chinese government if they have the political will to resolve the Tibetan conflict, to resolve the Uyghur conflict, to resolve the Hong Kong conflict, and to attend to the concerns of the people of South Mongolia. I think I can represent all our friends also in our commitment to reach out. But at the same time, till such a lasting solution is found, we are also committed to studying the reality of situation inside Tibet and point it out to the Chinese government that the policies and the programs that they implement in Tibet is not beneficial, both for the Chinese government as well as the Tibetan people, as well as the Uyghur people or the Southern Mongolians or the Hong Kong people. If the Chinese government has good sense of a ruler, then it's their duty to make sure that the aspiration of the people whom they rule is met, not merely impose what they believe to be the solution. I understand that for every problem in China, the Communist Party thinks that development is solution. But that is not the reality. Speaking for the Tibetans, we have been practicing Buddhism for the last more than 1,300 years. Material development alone does not bring happiness to people. Tibetan people need the right to use the language, to practice their religion. Then only will our people's aspirations be met. And that is what the Chinese leadership need to understand. And at the same time, we are also, till a lasting solution is found for the Tibetan issue, we are committed to take our case to the international community, whether the Chinese government likes it or not. Despite all the challenges that we face today in terms of social changes and the demographic changes that are happening within the Tibetan diaspora, we are committed, and we will be launching a program called Voluntary Tibet Advocacy Group on 6 November in Zurich. And I'm also very happy with the presence of quite a number of young Tibetans at this conference, at this forum, whom I had the opportunity to meet for a brief period during today's lunch. And I seek the support of and the involvement of all the young Tibetans. Despite the challenges we face, we also have this opportunity of Tibetans in more than 17 different countries outside India, Nepal, and Bhutan. Now, these Tibetans, particularly the young ones, have become citizens of the nations where they live. They speak the language. They understand the system. The only thing is that we need to provide them a little more information and help them in organizing themselves. It is the duty of the Tibetans, whether we like it or not. In this lifetime, our flesh, our blood, our bone are Tibetan, whatever nationality you have. Therefore, it is the duty of every single Tibetan to put in their effort with the leadership of the Central Tibetan Administration and with the cooperative effort of all the Tibetans and with the support of the international community. I can assure you and all the Tibetans inside Tibet that we will be able to multiply our efforts in advocating for Tibet, and that should yield positive results. Therefore, I am very happy that I also commend the organizers, the Office of Tibet Geneva and the Department of Information and International Relations, for organizing a very well-planned forum. But again, as I mentioned before also, we will need to appraise the outcome of the last 4 years of efforts and also look at the timing of this forum, whether it's too early for the periodical review and the structure of this program. We'll be having discussion with the stakeholders and then come out with positive recommendations for improvement whenever or wherever we have the next forum. We also need to look at whether we need to have this every year or not. So there are issues that we need to attend to these. And I very much appreciate the presence of the Vice President of Czech Republic, who not only graced the occasion here, but is very active in promoting the cause of Tibet in his country. That is what we need, not just words, but deeds that reflects your conviction and your commitment to support the Tibetan issue. And he also offered me to come to Dharamsala. I think the plan was very much there. The pandemic stalled it, and the pandemic came from Wuhan, so Chinese were also responsible for him not being able to come to Dharamsala earlier. But I'm sure by next year, when the pandemic ebbs a bit, and I really hope that he can come for the March 10th anniversary in Dharamsala. And I really appreciate your presence here. And also France, with all the contacts that he had with the Tibetans in Dharamsala, with the influence that he had and with the position that he holds, and at this young age as a deputy mayor. And I look forward to France shouldering more important roles in your country. And I really look forward to working with all of you. And then, of course, my friend André Gatolin. He is very, very vocal. It's not just him. His wife also prods him all the time to work for Tibet. And he's there everywhere. We were in Rome together, and he's right now with us. And at any given time, whenever he's requested, he's always there. And I also want to thank Nicholas Waldo for his presence, and I'll be meeting him day after tomorrow. As co-chair of the Swiss Parliamentary Friends of Tibet, we'll have more discussions as to how we can move things in the Swiss Parliament and with the government. And all the panelists, the experts, I was asking the younger generation of Tibetans during the lunchtime as to what they felt, and they were very inspired. Normally, they talk amongst the Tibetan youth, and they found that there's so much support from experts, from activists, from leaders, and they are very much encouraged to take up the cause of Tibet as a Tibetan. Actually, it should be vice versa. We should be doing the more, and then, but your presence here was very much appreciated by the young Tibetans who are present here. and Michael, Vijay, our old friends, and our friend from Scotland. So everybody, I don't remember all the names, so, but I think we had a very fantastic forum. And then our friends from Yugo, Dolkun is always there. Sometimes we are able to attend each other's conference, sometimes not because of our engagements of our own. But today he could make it. His colleague was in Rome. Now we have to find ways to work together. There are times when the Uyghur issue is sometime at the top, and then Tibetan issues are a little below, and then sometimes Tibetan issue takes precedence over Uyghur issue. This keeps happening. But we have to pool our energies together. What happened in Uyghur on an industrial scale is something that no one can think of in this age and time. It is monstrous coming from a state, and the states that are oppressing people sit at the places where they make decisions for us, and that is the most unfair thing that can happen to humanity. All of us are humans. We all deserve happiness, irrespective of where we come from. And Chinese government, the authoritarian rulers, really don't. The job of the rulers is to make sure that their people are happy. But unfortunately, what Chinese government is doing is making their own people unhappy. And I really hope better sense prevails over the Chinese leadership. We don't want China to fall apart, because that would create anarchy. We don't want anarchy in China, because of the independent nature of this universe. Anything that affects China affects the whole world. We also want peace and happiness for the Chinese people. Therefore, I really hope that a better sense will prevail over the Chinese leadership, and peace will prevail on earth. And we all should work towards it. The national leaders also should not be concerned only about their immediate interests. The leaders of the world should be concerned for the long-term interests of this world, including the climate change. Yesterday I was watching television, news on television. There were a lot of promises from world leaders on climate change, and I think it should not be left only to promises. There has to be concrete action, whether it's on climate change or whether it's on human rights situation. Thank you very much for your presence, and it's really encouraging. I met many of my old friends. This gave me an opportunity to see a lot of my old friends getting back together and catching up on things, and I also met a lot of new friends here. Unfortunately, because of the various engagements, I could not spend as much time as I would have loved to, but this is just the beginning, and we'll definitely follow it through, and we'll keep coming back to meet you again and again and work together and make sure that China is accountable. China is made accountable for their misdeeds. Thank you.